This video is about Tesla and its introduction into the Indian marketplace. I'm Nathan Matias. I'll be followed by Christopher Zuniga, Britt Cochran, and finally Charles Floyd, who will wrap everything up. So India is a humongous place. It has 1.3 billion citizens and is currently the second largest nation on earth in terms of population. Transportation is very important to the country. There's a lot of people who need a lot of things. So there's always people moving around constantly. India has quite high emissions at the moment, and they're looking to introduce more electric cars into their country to cut down on emissions. And we expect the Model 3 will debut shortly. So let's talk about the economic state in India. The average annual income is 366,000 rupees, which is equivalent to roughly 5,000 US. New Delhi is one of the largest cities in India, and the average citizen there earns 3 times more than the rest of the country. They do fairly well in comparison. So the nation's GDP is $2.86 trillion, which makes it 5th in the world. And they have a high concentration of wealth in its largest cities, like New Delhi. So the political system in India is actually fairly similar to Great Britain, in that they have a president instead of a king or queen who is largely like a ceremonial person. They don't have like a ton of power. They're just a figurehead more or less. The person who really leads the country is the prime minister. Presently is Narendra Modi. He's actually on his way out right now. He just got voted out. So whoever is the prime minister appoints a cabinet, and cabinet positions are kind of like the American cabinet positions, lots of different departments that have a great influence on the nation. So the stability of the government right now. Elections are held every 5 years, and over the last 4 elections across 20 years, there's only been 2 prime ministers. So citizens have been pretty happy with the prime ministers. Like I said earlier, the current one is actually on his way out, so there's going to be a little bit of change up there. There's been more political divide over the last 4 years, and despite that, according to globaleconomics.com, political stability has actually risen even through the last 14 years, so they've been doing pretty well. So this slide was actually supposed to be called potential political threats, but fortunately for Tesla, we couldn't really identify anything that was very threatening to them, so we found some opportunities instead. So the government has opened a pathway for Tesla. The Minister of Transportation in particular is very interested in having Tesla enter their market or enter their country, and they have placed subsidies for all electric vehicles, which of course Tesla is a fully electric vehicle, so they'll benefit from that greatly. So there's an incredible amount of lingual diversity in India. There's 2 main languages that most people speak, which is going to be English and Hindi. English is used by the government to communicate with one another. Hindi is more common amongst the rest of the population. There's 4 main regional dialects of Hindi across the nation. Interestingly enough, Chinese, Arabic, and Iranian Persian are also seen in bits and pieces of India. So bribery and corruption, unfortunately, are quite commonplace in India. Over 50% of government officials have been bribed at one point in their career, which is 10% lower than in 2019. Corona really slowed down bribery across the nation, fortunately. So the nation is aware that this is happening, and they've begun implementing watchdogs. And if you are caught bribing a government official, you can now land in jail up to 7 years. So the penalty for bribing someone is quite serious now. So the Hofstede model. So first of all, there's a high power distance in India. Employees tend to follow whatever the bosses say. They don't take the initiative and go off and do their own little thing. The culture is open to new ideas, and they welcome change and new challenges. As far as individualism and collectivism, the culture seems to have one foot in each camp. As far as like religion is a big part of the culture, and that's a very individualistic type of thing there. Now and just about everything else is done with everybody. Everyone takes part. As far as masculinity versus femininity, they lean a little bit towards the masculine side in terms of they lean towards power, success, and they're very competitive. It's a very competitive place. They have a long-term orientation, so they enjoy the old traditions and the things that their culture has to offer.
All right, so India actually has a total population of 1.3 billion people, of course, across their whole entire nation. Just a quick little fun fact about that is that means that 1 out of every 6 people that are walking on Earth are actually from India. They live in India. Sorry, not that they're from there, but they actually live in India. Now, with relation to the total population, the largest portion of their population is from the ages of 25 to 54, which, to add that into there, the cool thing about that is that's probably going to be the wheelhouse of Tesla's sales, and more or less their projection market that they're wanting to get to, because of course you're not going to sell to adolescents or much older people. Um, and so that more or less brings us to our growth rate, or India's growth rate is actually at 1%. So in relation to that, to the world population, India is actually the second most populated country in the world. So with that percent, they're actually projected to go above China, which is number one, in relatively around 2024. And it's just crazy because actually their whole land um, doesn't even make up for just a third of the land that we have in the U.S. So it's just it's crazy to believe that for sure. All right, and now on to, of course, your income levels and wealth distribution. Now, per capita income levels for India have been on a downward spiral. So when we're looking at those, they've actually dropped, I believe, 8.7% in the since the previous year, last year, um, which most of the contraction is going to be from, of course, trade, your transport, and of course, services. Now, when we're looking into the reasoning behind that, it's going to be because of the pandemic. Now, of course, there's nothing really you can do about that, and nothing anybody can do about that. So um, that's kind of entailed within those three things. More or less going back onto our wealth distribution, that's going to be leading more toward the rich. Um, Within that, the top 10% of the Indian population holds 77% of their whole national wealth, or the country's wealth. So um, that's more or less going to be on the wealth distribution side. All right, and now on to the major exports and imports of India. Now, when we're looking at, of course, their economy, this is one of their major things that lets them thrive. They're one of the biggest imports and exporters in the world. And of course, some of their major exports are going to be your petroleum, steel, iron. You've got machinery is one of their big ones, and also some drug formulations in there as well. And when we're looking at their total overall export figures, it's going to be around $324 billion, and that's U.S. wise. Going on down, we've got your import partners. So we actually are import partners with India, along with Saudi Arabia, Switzerland, and some other ones here and there. Um, but one of the big things for us, Tesla in particular, would be the total of 10% for the electrical and machinery equipment. That really helps us out for Tesla wise. All right, so now on to India's business environment. So let's take a trip back in memory lane. Whenever they first got their freedom from the UK, of course they weren't feeling very trustworthy of anybody, with their foreign markets, and their policies were very strict. They kept a close eye on all the foreign business transactions that were conducted within their country. So they ended up creating a policy, which is, of course, the 91 industrial policy, which would more or less relax some of those tensions that were placed on the foreign exchange. Um, and so that actually leads to the next point, which made it in 2017, they actually became the sixth largest automobile manufacturer. And although, that's fine and dandy, they were producing a lot of volume, they only exported about 5% of their total volume. Now, this is due to the manufacturers more or less, focusing on their country's market instead of expanding into others. So nothing really you can do about that, but that's one of the reasons why we are going to put a facility there. We're just trying to, relax our relationship with them in particular, which is, of course, is why we're going to try and increase those exports. Not that it's going to be, from 5% to 95%, but more or less relax the relationship, increase the exports a little bit with that new facility and hopefully get things all massaged out so that way, increasing exports will happen instead of, these high tension rates of exports within the country. All right, and now we have the currency and inflation of India. Now, when we're looking at inflation, it's a big part of course, global business transactions. It's what's going to determine like your purchasing price, recurring purchases, other things as well. And that's what brings us to India's inflation rate at the 5.03%. It actually rose almost a percent since February of this year. So when inflation rises, it actually makes your local goods more expensive, which causes the consumers to turn to cheaper options. That's what we do as humans. We turn to those cheaper options. So that's our inflation compared to the amount of exports. It's going to damper your local business and weaken the amount of exports because of your higher prices. So kind of transitioning into the currency, we have our currency exchange rate on there. It's 72 and a half Indian rupee, translates to $1. And another thing that kind of goes hand in hand with currency and inflation is going to be the exchange rate as a total. Constantly, this system of money is going to be fluctuating. Right now, it could be 72.45. In 10 minutes, it could be 72.55. So it's one of those things where they go hand in hand, and they work together to more or less make business what it is and determine what price is and all that good stuff within business transactions.
Electric vehicles are the next big thing. With Tesla being such a major contributor towards the electric vehicle system, having them move to India would increase the rank of India's current market by a landslide. India is currently ranked 5th in the world and is predicted to be the third largest by 2030 with a 54.2% market growth rate. India is anticipating a surge in electric vehicles in the upcoming years. There's going to be many competitors for Tesla in the electric vehicle market that consist of Porsche, Volvo, BMW, Audi, Jaguar, and many more. These 5 are the main competitors that the gigantic electric vehicle company will be facing. Its biggest competitor out of the 5 is a Porsche Taycan due to its luxurious attributes. It's the closest to competing with the Tesla, and it's at a cheaper price than a Tesla. Tesla's differentiation strategy is unique. They are the largest component in the world of transitioning to sustainable energy. They use advanced technologies in vehicles and other products such as their own proper solar roof. This strategy is a long-term focus on electric automobile automation, battery technology, and environmentally friendly products. They are anything in the future that is electric. Market entry mode. Tesla should use a transitional market entry. They will utilize manufacturing process from the US to streamline and share success with the plant in India. The cost of building manufacturing plants to Tesla standards is high, but the trade-offs come with new market opportunities and reduce the cost of shipping cars to India. The local responsiveness comes from the unique purchases of a Tesla vehicle. You can purchase a Tesla vehicle to your custom standards from paint, from interior paint to exterior paint, and other features that they provide, all from online and delivered to you within weeks. Tesla will use a greenfield investment strategy. This will make it hard for any foreign companies / partnerships to take control of Tesla. Since Tesla is a rapid growing company creating new technology, in short periods of time it will need its own personnel that is familiar with the technology to manage and oversee operations in India.
Hello, my name is Charles Floyd, and I will be going over the recommendations for Tesla entering into the Indian market and also the overall conclusion for the research that we conducted. So the first part that I will be going over here is the sales and marketing strategy. For the marketing strategy, we concluded that the best idea for Tesla would be to use the pull strategy. With Tesla using the pull strategy, they will be able to create targeted ads on Facebook and other social media platforms to be able to grasp hold of their target market. For the sales strategy, Tesla uses the idea of distributing directly from the manufacturer instead of having to deal with dealerships. This is much easier on the customer, considering that the customer does not have to deal with the hassle of going to a dealership, and they also don't have to deal with any markup fees that comes with the dealership as well. It is easier for a customer just to go online, find out exactly which vehicle they want, customize it however they want, and then have it delivered directly to their house. Okay, so the next part we will go over here is the human resource strategy. HR is really what ties the employee to the business, and it allows the employee to give insight on any issues they may be having or any changes that they wish to see within the business. Tesla's human resource strategy is considered all in, and Tesla prides themselves by being very diverse, transparent on any issues that goes on within the company, and they also pride themselves for being very competitive, while also making sure that each employee is taken care of and all their needs are met. Okay, for the next part, we will be going over the supply chain strategy for Tesla. The recommended strategy that we came up with for Tesla to use was the vertical integration strategy. With Tesla using this, they will be able to reduce their overall cost in exportation, importation, and overall transportation. India states that close to 80% of the resources needed for the lithium-ion battery can be produced locally in India. With over 80% of the battery being able to be produced in India, this will greatly reduce the overall cost to produce a vehicle in India, and it might also potentially reduce the sales price of the car as well. Looking at updates and upgrades with each vehicle, Tesla has newly formed a digital supply chain which allows them to send out updates for the software of each vehicle via the cloud. This will automatically update in each vehicle, and this will also be helpful to each customer because they will not have to drive to each Tesla service center in order to receive each software update. The vehicle can be simply sitting in their home, in their garage, and receive the update overnight, and will be much easier on each customer. Any sort of vehicle upgrades that need, such as parts or any maintenance service requests that needs to be done on each vehicle, can be done through the Tesla service centers. Okay, so the next part I'll be going over here is Tesla's 3-year pro forma income statement. As of December 31st, 2020, Tesla's gross profit margin was 21%. Their operating margin was 6.32%, and their net income margin was 2.19%. When we look at December 31st of 2019, however, their gross profit margin was 16.56% with a negative operating margin of 0.28%. Their net income margin was also negative of 3.54%. And looking back in 2018, their gross profit margin was 18.83%, operating margin of negative 1.81%, and net income margin of negative 4.55%. So as you can see here, you can see the 3 years that Tesla has been running in the red in 2018 and 2019 when it comes to operating margin and their net income margin. However, in 2020, this has gone up a lot more compared to the past years. Okay, so this next thing we can look at here is a chart that gives us a better visualization of exactly how much growth Tesla has had within the past couple of years. If you look at the chart on the far right in the bottom right-hand corner, you will see that in 2017, the net income applicable to common shareholders was in the negatives. But however, if you look at 2020, you will see that that number has increased drastically compared to 2017. This gives us a better visualization of overall exactly how much growth Tesla has had in the past coming years. In 2017, the shareholders were in fact losing their profit. But in 2020, however, they were actually making money off their investment. Okay, so the next section I will go over here talks about the impact of the coronavirus pandemic and how it could potentially affect the Tesla manufacturing plant located in India. Since Tesla is more known for their robotics on the assembly line with having less personnel, there is less likely of a risk for a spread to happen when the facility is operational. However, the risk lies with the construction phase of the facility. There will likely be a lot more people on the premises during the construction phase of the facility, and we will more likely have a spread during the construction phase than the actual running phase of the facility. Elon Musk has stated multiple times that he is not worried of an impact or of how they could affect any future plans for his facility located in India. A perfect example of this happened at the Fremont plant located in Fremont, California. That facility, which is a Tesla facility, had over 400 cases out of 10,000 employees. Notice that this is a gigaplant, which will likely be what we will see over in India. Okay, so finalizing the project here, we will determine whether or not it is a good opportunity for Tesla to enter into the Indian market. There are many great examples that were given within this presentation that would give us a conclusion that yes, it is an amazing opportunity for Tesla. And also, according to Union Minister Nitin Gadkari recently stated that Tesla has a golden opportunity to begin manufacturing in India. We have seen this with a greatly reduced cost since close to 80% of the resources needed for Tesla's ion batteries can be produced locally in India, which will greatly help reduce the cost to not only manufacture the vehicle itself, but will also reduce the cost of how much the vehicle price is for sale. EV is one of the largest growing markets in the world, and the market has been moving at such an exponential rate that it does not appear to be slowing down anytime soon. The overall conclusion of this project, we have concluded that Tesla will be able to profit greatly off of the entering into the Indian market and should have great success. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day.